Down in 5.
So I need to hold this to have the game, right? Blah. You win, Goldfinger.
It seems I'm just too good for you.
You play a Slazenger 1, don't you?
Yes, why?
This is a Slazenger 7. Here's my Penfold Hearts. You must have played the wrong ball somewhere on the 18th fairway. We are playing strict rules, so I'm afraid you'll lose the hole and the match. She's a beauty, isn't she?
You are a clever, resourceful man, Mr. Ballard.
Why, thank you.
Perhaps too clever. Twice our paths have crossed. Let's leave it at that. I should think that our first meeting would have convinced you.
Oh, I see. You're worried I'm not going to give you a return game.
Both of us know perfectly well what we're talking about, Mr. Ballard, but I see it as necessary to remind you. Many people have tried to involve themselves in my affairs unsuccessfully.
It seems I have you by your balls.
Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Ballard. It may be your last. Normally, my henchman Oddjob would put on a little display for you now, but rather embarrassingly, he has lost his famous hat. This will have to do.
Remarkable. But what does the golf club shop have to say about it?
Oh, nothing, Mr. Ballard. I own the golf club shop.
I may be able to help you with Oddjob's hat. My old DB5 had a tracking system, but it was quite antiquated. This new DBS is something much more useful. It's called ShatNav.
ShatNav?
No, not ShatNav. ShatNav. I just heard myself. It does sound very wrong. No, all we do, we press this button and up she pops. We just type in best hatters in the world, London. Of course, Lock & Co.
2 words you may have overheard, Mr. Ballard, that cannot possibly have any significance to you or anyone in your organisation.
Can you afford to take that chance, Goldfinger? Lock & Co are the oldest hatters in the world. They've been going since 1676. They make hats for royalty and celebrity. In fact, in 1850, they invented the bowler hat. It all makes sense. They invented your bowler hat for Oddjob, also known as a Cambridge. Now, as luck would have it, Lock & Co are launching a James Bond collection this very evening, and I've got an invitation to the exclusive launch party, so maybe I can pick up one of the bowler hats for your Oddjob.
That would be most kind, Mr. Ballard. But you must be fast. I am informed they are only making 60.
Welcome friends, welcome one and all. Blair Ballard, the bon vivant, very much at your service. I do hope that you're all in fine form. Now, unless you've been living in a cave for the past year, or maybe you've been held against your will in a detention centre in North Korea, growing a beard big enough to hide a badger, and I'm looking at you, Brosnan. It won't have escaped your attention that this year is actually a very important one for Bond fans because it marks the 60th anniversary of James Bond on the silver screen. Now, there have been loads of events planned by EON and other members of the Bond community. You may even have managed to make it to the cinema to see one of the Bond re-releases in 4K at the cinemas. But there will also be coming up a few new Bond-themed collections by some of the most famous brands associated with the world of 007. Now that's why we're here in St James's today, because fans of the sartorial side of James Bond will know that this part of London is where you'll find some of the older, more traditional brands associated with the world of James Bond. Round the corner up there is Jermyn Street, where you find Terminal and Asser if you want your James Bond shirt or tie. Across the road from them you'll have Swain Adeney and Brigg if you want to pick up a From Russia With Love attaché case. Some of the main shoemakers for Bond are around here as well. You've got John Lobb just round the corner there. You've got Lokes and Churches and Crockett and Jones as well. And we're only a stone's throw away from the Burlington Arcade if you want to pop into NPL for some cashmere. But we're here in St James's in front of James Lock & Co. Now, they're the oldest brand, I think, associated with the world of James Bond, because James Lock & Co. opened their doors in 1676. Now, to put that in some sort of context, that's just 10 years after the Great Fire of London and 100 years before our friends across the pond in America gained their independence from us dastardly Brits. It was also about the same sort of time that James Cook arrived in Botany Bay in Australia. So these guys have got history. Now, their back catalogue of clients is a basic who's who. Lord Horatio Nelson got his bicorn hat made by Lock & Co. In fact, Winston Churchill got his Homburg hat and also his flat-topped bowler hat made by Lock & Co. as well. And bowler hats were invented by the company behind us, and that's why Charlie Chaplin is on their books as well. But we're here to talk about Bond. Now, that story goes way back to 1962 because Lock & Co. provided the trilby that Sean Connery wore in Dr. No. Now, that leads us to why we're here today, because Lock & Co. and EON have done a collaboration and produced a James Bond collection, and there's a launch party this evening, and I've got one of the invitations. So let's pop inside and chat to Mike Hagon, who's the general manager here, to talk about why they picked the certain pieces they have for the collection and a bit about their history, and then try some on. Come on, let's get inside, come on.
What we've done now is that most of the winners on this band
like
online sale.
Amazing for $100
or something.
It's nuts.
We're here to celebrate the 60th anniversary of James Bond this October, and we have had an informal relationship with the Bond franchise for all of those 60 years. If you watch Dr. No, the gun barrel scene is a Lock & Co. hat that Sean Connery is wearing in that and features in the first 3 films, and then for men and women throughout the rest of the franchise. But tonight is the first time that partnership is actually formalised into an official partnership, of which, again, we're extremely honoured and very, very proud of. And you will tonight see for the first time the 7 hats that we have made. And the 3 that we are launching with is top right is the Vincenzo, inspired by Tracy Vincenzo on Her Majesty's Secret Service, Dame Diana Rick. Also in the squirrel is the very famous Odd Job round top bowler, obviously in tribute to Odd Job in Goldfinger. That is a very limited edition, that is only 60 pieces. And then bottom left is the cap, that's the Auric cap. And then in July, we launched 2 summer pieces, which are the Panamas that you see there. The Andrea Panama from The Man with the Golden Gun, inspired by Maud Adams' Panama and the Man with the Golden Gun. And the Stoke Panama from Goldfinger again. And then the last 2 pieces will be to celebrate the anniversary itself in October, which is the James, which is the replica of the hat that Sean Connery wore. And then our sort of love letter, if you like, to the James Bond franchise, to EON, is the 60 cap, which is not inspired by any of the films, but is there to celebrate the 60th anniversary. I'd like, if we can, to raise a glass to the relationship between Lock & Co. and 007, and I hope you will have a fantastic evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Right, I'm very, very privileged to have Meg Simmonds here from EON, the holder of the archive keys. Very important lady. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat. How did you get involved with the collaboration here with Lock & Co?
Well, it's not just me, there's a team of us, and so we have people who are actively looking for good connections and good fits with Bond, and of course this is a natural because we've used Lock & Co. in the Bond films, so it made a lot of sense. And of course in the 60s when the film started, hats were de rigueur for men. Not so much for the newest Bonds, for Daniel and Pierce, they rarely wore hats. Pierce, I think, only wore his naval cap.
That's right, yes.
But Vesper Lynd wore a hat, and there's moments where you can get hats in, and I think they should come back.
I really miss the days. I think we really do, you know, bring trilbies back. Obviously, I can see you were always photographed. When I've ever seen you, you're always sporting a beret or some interesting headgear. So back to the collection itself. How did that evolve? I mean, did you approach Lock & Co. or did they come to you and say, "Can we sort something out"?
I think it was sort of a mutual light bulb moment where we sort of in the 60th anniversary was coming up, so we're looking for connections with the very first Bond films from the 60s, so it made sense.
Absolutely. Now, going back into the archive itself, I mean, how many of the hats are still in the archive? I mean, how far back does it go?
There aren't many we have virtually no wardrobe from the 60s because they used to, at the end of films, as all the films back then did, they would liquidate their assets, and move on. It's weird, they'd keep a few odd things, but, they tended to either reuse them or get rid of them.
Sure.
So I've found some things at auction and bought them back, but no, sadly, none of the original hats. I've got an original Connery coat from Dr. No.
Wow.
And
Who made that? Who made the coat?
That was Anthony Sinclair.
Oh, of course. Yes.
So I'd love to find his original hat. That would be fantastic.
But
I'm itching to get in Lock & Co.'s archive, but apparently it's really buried and it's difficult to access. But that's where all the keys, the clues will be,
When I spoke to Michael in a previous interview, Michael Hagon, the manager here, he said that it would be difficult to tell because of no records going back for Dr. No. They didn't have receipts at the time that would link it to a production company. Maybe just one of the production companies came in and bought the hats on spec without letting the
I think that did happen often, but I do think they have. I'm sure I've seen reference to Odd Job's hat being Lock & Co. And then we have the special effect Odd Job hat, which isn't Lock & Co. And I think it's because they were going to muck about with them so much.
Right.
They just got those from Berman and Nathan's.
Oh, so they're not
the one that he actually wore as a piece of costume was a proper hat. The special effects ones they were mucking around with were not. So they're slightly different.
Sure. Are any of the hats that we see in the collection actually, do they feature in the archive at all, or were they just, did Lock & Co. use sort of
They
archive
used
photos?
our original photography, so we have lots of photo reference for the hats.
Mm-hmm.
So they use that for their research.
And I said before that the actual colour of the trilby was always a bone of contention. People thought it was brown, they thought it was green.
Yeah, we do have something that says green on it from the wardrobe archive. Yeah, from the wardrobe notes.
Well, absolutely. Now with the 4K as well. I saw Dr. No in the cinema a week or so ago, and it's very obviously a green trilby, which was fascinating to see. Do you have any particular hats that you think might make a future part of the collection if the collection goes on next year possibly, or any parts from the archive?
Yeah, but you have to wait and see.
Because I always thought that some of the top hats. I mean, I thought that Timothy Dalton's hat.
We do in License to Kill. Of course, he's at the wedding, and we have those hats in the archive.
Were they not Lock & Co. then? Were they a different?
No, they are Lock & Co.
Oh, they are. That's amazing.
I would love to actually. Maybe we'll do a little archive display here at some point in the year.
That'd be absolutely wonderful.
So,
are there any particular pieces that you think? Not hats necessarily, but wardrobe pieces you'd like to bring. Are there any other companies or brands you think that would be a good fit for the 60th anniversary that you'd like to do collaborations with?
No, today is all about Lock & Co.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, look, Meg, thanks so much for taking time to have a quick chat to us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely wonderful. Thanks a lot, Meg Simmonds. Thanks so much. Exactly. So we're here with Ben Dalrymple, who is the head honcho here. It's been a great night. Thanks so much for having us. How's it going? How's the reception been for you?
Yeah, it's been really great. Thank you for coming. It's lovely.
It's been a long time in the planning, about 18 months. We've
18
been
months,
talking
yeah.
with EON, so it feels really rather lovely to get it over the line and announced, because we've had to keep very quiet about it, a lot of tight lips.
I was trying to poke Mike for information. Can we give us a tease about what's going to be in there? And he was going, no, NDA, no way. It was very good. You trained him well.
Yeah.
But how did you have any input yourself personally in what was going to be included and what you thought you could go for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we didn't want to do replicas. That was the first decision we made, was we wanted it to be an homage to the films and not exact replicas, because I don't think that's necessarily what people wanted. But also, we wanted it to be unisex range. So those are the two sort of like preconditions, really. So we wanted to have a good balance that men and women could wear. I mean, women can wear all of men's hats anyway, but it doesn't necessarily work the other way.
No, sure.
So with the Vincenzo, I think that is a genuine unisex product. So.
It's my fave, I think, of the whole collection. It's the one I would buy for my other just
Yeah.
I had to sell a kidney, I think, but it's it is beautiful, and it's just so simple and so elegant and just perfect. And obviously Diana Rigg absolutely rocks it in the film, and you've really captured that, I think. But then you've got the classic trilby, I should say, absolutely spot on colour-wise. I mean, did you go down? Anybody go down to the archive? Or?
Yeah, so our archives are stored at the London Metropolitan Archive.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So, but obviously being in lockdown, it's not necessarily open to everybody. So it's a lot of research, and getting the colour match was kind of difficult. But it's a new material as well, so a little bit of experimentation. So again, you know, I think some of the products came in about a week ago. So it really was like, you know, it was like the Bond clock ticking down.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, we're really pleased with it actually, and of course that is the replica. That is, you know, as was worn. So that's the hopefully the nice nod for somebody that really wants the real,
the genuine article.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe the first port of call for you collectors out there, because it really. There was a talk about the green and the brown, whether it was green or brown, but then you see. Did you watch Dr. No with the digital remastering 4K in the cinema recently? Because it's definitely green in there.
Exactly, and it's very, very difficult when everything is in Technicolor, like it was. Everything's quite a warm colour. It makes everything quite yellow or quite red.
Sure.
Like you see the Auric cap that he wears is a completely different colour in real life. So it's very difficult to sort of like guesstimate that tonal balance out. So it helps, though, obviously, when they're sort of remastered, you go back to the originals.
Sure. Are there any, I mean, if you're allowed to extend the collection further, are there any hats that almost made the cut that you thought maybe we should have gone for that, or, you know, or ones if you could add maybe 3 or 4 hats that you picked that you could go in as well?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, with the Odd Job bowler, that was the one that we really want, you know, that's the sort of that was the one we really wanted to do. But again, it's quite difficult, because if you look at the production shots in the films, there's different iterations of it, so it sort of changes in height and width, and there are prop and costume hats. So we've sort of got the best balance, I think, in that. But I think there are other iconic hats. I mean, we would have loved to have done the grey ascot top hat from View to a Kill, I think. That would have been nice.
And License to Kill as well.
Yeah.
The both. I mean, because that was definitely a Lock and Co hat.
Yes, it is.
Because I talked to Meg about this earlier on, and she said, we got it in there. So that with a bullet hole. Peter Brooker was saying he'd like to have the bullet hole in as well. Be really cool.
Yeah.
And then other hats you think, well, what about, I mean, knickknacks, bowler hat maybe? I mean, I suppose that you've got the bowler hats, obviously, as part of
having invented the bowler hat, that's it's sort of a nice
yours.
fit, really, yeah, definitely. And you know, you've got sort of Eva Green's hat as well, which we would like to do again. So yeah.
That would be absolutely fantastic. Well, I must heartily congratulations and thank you so much for letting us have a
great
chat.
To have you here.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks. I'm now with David Evans, or the Grey Fox.
GreyFoxBlog, yes, yeah.
Tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about your blog, and then we'll talk about the Bond connection.
Thank you, yes. Well, yes, I've been blogging for 10 years. I blog about men's style. I suppose my strapline is the search for style. It started off as the search for style as an older man, because I am an older man.
Never, no.
And I'm just interested in all the sort of influences we see about us, including fictional characters like James Bond. So it's great to be here.
Now, we talked earlier on, you're more interested in the book, the literature side of things, as opposed to the films, is that right?
I've read the James Bond books lots of times since I was a teenager, and you know that was pretty soon after some of the earliest ones were written.
Wow.
And I just find it very interesting the way that Bond's style is developed and described. There isn't much mention of brands, I suppose. I've obviously seen all the films, and it's interesting to see how brands have come on board and Bond's style has developed through those brands. But I don't know as much about the films probably as about the books.
Sure. But I mean, it's very probable that Ian Fleming, well, it's probably inevitable that Ian Fleming was a customer here at Lock & Co. He obviously frequented St James's, Jermyn Street was on his list of shopping locations. So it's probably guaranteed that he was a customer here at Lock & Co.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about coming to shop in this area of London. You've got Savile Row, you've got Jermyn Street, you've got St James's Street here, you've got hatters, shirt makers, suit makers, and most of those that are still there, Ian Fleming would have known. Of course, he would have dressed his character James Bond in a lot of what we see around us here. It's just
absolutely
fantastic. It's sort of living history, really.
It is, really. You really feel it. I mean, talking before, I mean, they had a renovation in the sort of 1700s, but Nelson would still recognise the store if he walked in the door today.
I mean, as we heard earlier, Lot moved from over the road into this store in 1750 something. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Exactly.
It's just incredible.
I mean, the original store across the road, though, was only opened 10 years after the Great Fire of London. It's just mind-boggling.
I know, it's amazing, and there are people here who's are members of the same family who've been working here for decades. So there's a real sort of link, and that's what I like about men's style generally, really. Particularly British men's style. You see that sort of the link going back over the decades, and we can, you look at Fleming's description of what Bond would have worn in one of his books in the 50s, and you could wear something similar now, and it's so classic. You'd look very good in it.
Yeah, I mean the classic, a Timberland Ashes shirt. We're talking about the blue shirt and
this is what I'm wearing now. Actually, is the
cocktail
cuff,
wonderful, two-button turn back,
Turnbull and Astor shirts. Yes. I mean, I sort of based my look today on the Dr. No look, but I went a bit wrong with the shoes.
Those are very Brosnan, those shoes, actually. Pierce Brosnan would wear.
Oh, really? There you go. They're called monk straps. Yes.
The monk straps.
Yeah.
The check when he was, he would wear.
Okay.
I think he wore them in Die Another Day or one of the.
Yeah.
He's a very big. And I think gold.
I thought they looked rather Bondish.
They are very Bondish.
Right. Well, I went wrong with the silk knitted tie. I did put on a black silk knitted tie, which has been very Bond, but I thought it looked a bit boring, so I put on a
pop of colour. It's great.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, are you a hat man? I mean, I wish hats were more in vogue in a general sense. Back in back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, where everyone wore a hat.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, the difficulty nowadays is that if you wear a hat, there's nowhere to hang it when you go into a restaurant or a shop or something like that. But I wear hats all the time. I wear beanies. I wear caps. I wear trilbies, the lot.
Trilbies.
I tend to overwear them because I wear them in the pouring rain, and so they get absolutely ruined.
But a good trilby should be for life, really.
Absolutely.
It's great.
If it's properly looked after, it's put on its crown rather than on its rather than on the other way up. Yeah.
Well, this is the place to come if you ever need to get them renovated.
Yes. I did come here because I found myself a very nice silk top hat for my daughter's wedding a few years ago, and it needed adjusting. So I came here, and they've got something called a conformateur.
Yes, we tried it on before.
Yeah. It's like a torture device, and it measures your head, and then they steam the silk top hat. It now fits beautifully.
And it was invented way back when in France, and it's still,
yes.
It's still
250
cutting
years
edge
ago.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Cutting edge technology. Yes, there's no sort of laser,
no, it's
computer.
Not scanned. You're just literally. But it works. Absolutely works. It's a mess with perfection.
And what's great is if you go into the back of the shop here, you get all these cutouts from conformateur, people who've been on the conformateur going back decades, really famous names. And it's just fascinating. I love that history to menswear.
I think this store, more than anywhere in London, really does have that sense of history and tradition, and it's just so British as well.
Absolutely, yes. And I've been writing a bit recently about the influence of British menswear style on Western menswear style generally, and it's really interesting how places like Savile Row and Jermyn Street have had a real significant influence on what men who wear Western style clothing look like. It's
absolutely. We're world leaders. Dave, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Well, cheers. We should cheers, actually. Sorry, yes.
Just
Cheers,
dropped
indeed.
some, well,
Thanks so much.
splash some martini.
Cheers.
Hello, my name is obviously Jay Flagella, and I work here at Log as a master hatter.
A master hatter, what does that
Master
involve then?
hatter.
What does that mean as your job title? That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. But with that title comes a huge responsibility. Primarily, obviously, we are hatters, and we make hats and we sell hats. With Log's hat, it's not always just like a selling a hat to a client, and that's not the end of it. In fact, that is the time when the journey begins.
Sure.
So we would like our clients to enjoy the hat very thoroughly, as they would do traveling, just general use. And after a good use, at some point, it has to come back to its very own home, which is obviously Log. And at that point, we offer them a full a service that hat may require. May it be just a minor touch-up with the steaming and brushing, or even reviving the shape to sort of reblock it, and then it goes back to the client for extended life.
So when you buy a hat from Log, it's not just for Christmas, it's for life. You are a kind of lifelong part of the family.
Absolutely. I mean, just like the business, it's still run by the descendants, and this is 8th generation in running. So similarly, Log's each and every hat is for a lifetime. It just carries on from generation to generation.
Now, we're talking, the hat you're wearing is rather special. Talk us through exactly what you're wearing, because it's quite amazing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in a way, this is like fast approaching to Ascot. And what I'm wearing here, I'm sporting a silk top hat. Majority of them are vintage and some are antique. And what I'm wearing here is the Log's original silk top hat. And obviously it's been renovated. So we do all our renovation in-house, and it's done by me.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so when, for instance, this piece, when it came in, the first thing that we look out for is the plush, which is the covering, no longer being manufactured, and even I can't replace that. So long as that is pristine, it's good enough for us to renovate. So in terms of renovation, this sort of deteriorates over the time, and that's the band and bow, which is being put on as new. Merino, that's the underside, and it's the fine wool covering. At some point, it sort of ages and loses its colour.
Sure.
At that point, it has been taken away, and this is a new covering.
Sure.
With a binded edge, which is hand done, and then we have a bespoke lining, what we call a leather sweatband inside the hat, which is also new, and Log's fresh new lining. So you can see how
Pristine and
Pristine.
Amazing.
after the renovation, good as new.
But the actual, this is so rare, isn't it? The actual, because the vintage, you can't buy a new top hat with the original kind of, the material is so rare.
Absolutely. So if you come across a silk top hat, it is so rare that even the plush is non-existent. So whatever in terms of a hat you come across, it is very sort of hard to sort of come across, and they are so valued to an extent that people want to acquire one of these and wear it.
Of course.
And the plush, which is the covering, was manufactured by a foreign company, which is no longer sort of in sort of.
Were they're French or
French company,
Yeah,
manufacturer,
yeah.
French origin, and the company got burnt down. The factory actually got burnt down, and also the loom that manufactured the plush got destroyed.
So there's no way of replicating it.
No way of sort of recreating the magic. There has been sort of attempts, or really bad ones, and incomparable.
I mean, when you see that, you can see it. It's just sort of luminescent. It's got the glows. The sheen is amazing.
Yeah. So the way this plush is laid, it's got a nap to it. So when you polish it, it has to be sort of polished anti-clockwise
one way,
from
yeah.
the center,
Ah,
and
right.
anti-clockwise again, polishing on the side of the crown. But if you look carefully, the top of the crown has a sort of anti-clockwise circular.
It's almost like a record, you can. It's amazing.
Literally,
It's
like,
amazing.
Absolutely. So the top is like that, and the side is completely flat plush, which is brushed anti-clockwise. And the plush, the way this plush is at the top, is the same on the brim.
Oh, it's got the same
Same
way.
way, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So when polished, magic.
It is. It's absolutely it's incandescent. It's just beautiful. When
Indeed.
you do make top hats, I mean, what's
So
the difference?
these are the modern ones. So in comparison, the shape is virtually same as what used to be in the past. But the whole shell is made up of rabbit fur felt.
That's rabbit fur.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And in every hatting, whether it's straw hat or a felt hat, there's always what we call shellac involved in strengthening and giving the structure to any hat.
Okay.
So rabbit fur felt and good old shellac.
So what's shellac? What is shellac?
It's a derivative taken from the Indian beetles.
Oh, okay.
It's like they're not harmed in any way. Mainly
Sure.
it's the excretion which that gets used. It's excreted by Indian beetles, and then how.
And it gives it its strength and the...
Absolutely. It's a yellow liquid, also used in the ladies' nails.
I thought I'd heard the name before.
Yeah.
So Jayesh, we've got a 61, my favourite vintage.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Right here, just getting it ready for it to go on your head.
Great.
Because you like mine so much, I want it to be same as,
Thank you.
but in the correct size. There we go.
Wow, I've got a
How's
huge cranium. It's absolutely... And worth £6,000 to £7,000. Because I've got a big head, you see, it's more of the ultra rare material, the silk, and it's, and the shellac, and it's vintage, so... Well, look, amazing. This man is the genius, in-house genius here at Lock & Co. Thanks so much, Jay, for
Not
taking
at
the
all.
time.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Nice pleasure to meet you as well.
Holding on to the tradition gives me the importance, and also Lock & Co.
And you make people very happy. And, so if
I
you've
try.
got a hat you need to bring in, this man will sort you out. Thanks again, Jay. It's wonderful.
Absolute pleasure. Great meeting you.
Great meeting you too.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Not at all.
Now we're here with best mate Pete Brooker from Tailors With Love. Thanks so much for coming on.
Wouldn't miss it.
I know. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, are you a hat gun guy? Are you?
Oh, definitely, yeah, absolutely. Not right now, obviously, but
But what are your thoughts of the collection? What have you got any signature piece? A particular piece you particularly like?
I mean, I've always got to gravitate towards the Stoke Poges hat. Mm-hmm. I know you're wearing it right now,
I'm
so
on
maybe
the old
it's
school
kind of
one. I need to get the
maybe
new one
by
with the
osmosis.
new band on.
But this is kind of like the one that I always think of when it comes to lock hats. I know this when they released it a couple of years ago. They had your version, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they had to hide the name because if they had the Stoke Poges name, it was going to be like, oh crap, it's selling out too fast. So they had to call it like Palm Springs.
They did. They randomly changed. I've still got the box. And it's still got Stoke on the outside. But yeah, they had to change it because it flew out the store. So really a good thing.
It's really identifiable. So my eye, when I look at the collection, my eyes go to that one there. So this is interesting, right? So the green Sandown from Dr. No.
Yep.
And there's a debate about the colour saturation. Was it brown? Was it green? Was it grey? Who cares? I care deeply. I know you care.
I do care. I do care. I do care, Pete. I do care.
So they were saying that it was originally brown, but because of the colour saturation, it was green in the film. But then they thought, well, actually, no, we know the archives, we know our stuff. It was green in the original. Have I got that right?
You have, because we talked to Meg Simmonds,
Right.
And there's a receipt for green. And if you look at the 4K version now, it is green in the film. So do you
Right.
reckon they've corrected it, or do you reckon that's the original? They kind of upscaled the original print. I don't know.
I think whatever Meg says goes. So if Meg says green,
I prefer
I'm
a green
good.
one though. I think it looks epically, I love
Either
the
way,
colour.
that's kind of that's the hallmark, the stepping stone, I
Yeah.
would say, for people that are looking to get into Bond hats. Where do they start? What are the iconic pieces? I look at that. Auric. That's an interesting hat to have. I think that's probably one for the collectors because it's not Bond, but it's still a very interesting hat and it's obviously very iconic. That one is only like what 600 pieces or something?
No, 60 I think. It's going to be like,
Is that it?
they're really good. They're going to fly out.
That's nuts.
They're £795.
Right. Okay.
So they'll fly kind of like that.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
reckon they're going to sell it really quickly.
Will they fly with a whoosh?
And keep low. But I mean, it is iconic. But it hasn't got the steel rim. I mean, it's a shame they haven't put the steel. So you can't do any damage with it.
Right.
I suppose health and safety gone mad.
Yeah, gone crazy.
What about the others? I mean, the Vincenzo Tracy's hat from on the
I love that. I love that. And she looks absolutely gorgeous in that hat. I'm really glad that they've introduced that to the collection. I do like the kind of niche, parochial, far reach of this one, though. The Maud Adams one.
It's not the one I'd immediately think that's got to get in the collection. I mean, it's great they have.
Yes.
But I wasn't, you know, it was
But I like that. A little bit like,
Left
say,
field.
so how like Oliver Brown would bring back the piped blouson from A View to a Kill, right?
Which you love.
Which
I
I
love as well.
love.
I love as well. I've actually got it after you said you loved it. I've tried them.
Right. So I like the kind of the geeky element of Bond, and I think like Locke and the 007 guys, they know that the geeky element of Bond will like the far reach. They'll like something a little bit out of left field, like you say.
But it's something you could wear as well. Or for not you, but your delightful other half
I'll
could
give it a
wear.
go. I'll give it a go.
I reckon carry it off. But it's something your other half you could buy for her, and
Yes,
she could wear
yeah,
it
yeah.
to an event or whatever, and you would know, and she would know. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of like under the radar. You can have your little Bond moment together, and it's
so.
not shouting James Bond.
Yes, exactly.
But everyone likes a bit of Maud Adams though.
Well, certainly Roger did.
He did twice.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Or 3 times if you count A View to a Kill. Was she not in that? I'm not sure there was.
Well, she said she was, right?
I'll
Now
give-
we're getting granular.
I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Are there any hats you'd like to see if the collection was extended? Are there any hats you think, why is that not in there? I mean, you could think Knick Knack, you know, the bowler hat from Knick Knack, you know, from Man with the Golden Gun maybe, or the top hat from A View to a Kill, or Dalton's one from License to Kill.
Yeah, I'd like that one, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have the bullet hole in it.
And that-
I'd like to. I said to Meg, I said, "Why are we missing a trick here?"
That's
and Meg said,
genius
"What are you
idea.
talking about?"
But that'd be really cool.
I mean, if you
Set up a
had,
wedding with a bullet hole in your.
Yeah,
in your-
I
that'd
mean-
be super cool.
well, I would say that's probably got to be done at some point. Have the bullet hole, and also practical. You know, it's breathable then.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly. Ventilation is very important.
You'll be there at Ascot and be like, well, I could try the Roger one, but I'm getting a bit sweaty under the hood.
Need a bit of a breeze, bit of drip. Any other hats? I'm trying to think of little hats we could squeeze in.
Okay, question for you.
Yeah?
And this might be something you'll have to edit out.
Okay.
Okay, so Spectre.
That was from Lock & Co.
Are you sure?
It was.
Are you
it
sure?
Was. Well,
Are they
I mean,
sure?
They're
sure.
Well, they're sure, but also there are people on the AJB forum. Check it out, guys, if you haven't done already. It's definitely Lock & Co hat. The beanie hat that he wears at Altausay on the lake, going to see Mr. White, is definitely a Lock & Co hat.
Okay.
But they discontinued it. They do another hat very similar now, but I'm going to ask Mike if they would consider re-releasing it.
Okay.
Because it has a little kind of extra little nipple on top, doesn't it?
Because
Little bulge,
last time we were in this room, there was some debate about that, about people
They
maybe.
say no, it's Acne. It was
Acne
definitely. I've
studios.
seen the original.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's definitely
Okay.
Lock & Co.
Oh, good for them. I think what's really cool about this, and it's probably been said 1,000 times, I'm the last guy to be interviewed, by the way, so this is regurgitated. But it's very cool, not only for Lock & Co to have this celebration, because they've been in it from the very first gun barrel, but it's also really cool for Bond, because Lock & Co haven't had a collaboration with anyone. You know, they've supplied hats for a lot of the films, for a lot of TV, you know, since the birth of TV. And this is the first time that they've actually had any kind of celebration or collaborations or license with another company outside. So I think it's not only is it cool for Lock & Co, but it's very, very cool for Bond to snare this particular relationship.
To have that moment in the sun, I really think that's absolutely right, because they have, you know, Churchill, they've had, you know, Kingsman, they have so many, the hats featuring so many films, but they keep their light under a bushel, being very British about it, but now it's their time to shine, and I'm really glad. You're absolutely right, it's a very good point.
Right.
Thank you, Pete. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Now we have the main man himself, Mike Hagon, who is the general manager, Bond aficionado, and living legend. Michael, thanks so much for having us tonight.
Pleasure as always, Blair.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Now, tell us about how this all came about. We've talked to loads of people tonight, but you're the main man with the finger on the pulse. How did the EON Lock & Co collaboration work?
I think that effectively it was just the weirdest thing, because although we've always, you know, hatted the actors in the films and actresses, it's always been, you know, either on an ad hoc basis, but an unofficial basis.
Sure.
And of course, something we're very proud of, part of our history. But we've never formalised the arrangement and never had a partnership. And I think it's a mutual thing. EON came to us and wanted to work with us, which was wonderful. And I think the whole lead up to the 60th anniversary was just a perfect time to
Like a
do
catalyst
it.
to kind of, lit the torch.
But what it meant, we could sort of go back through the history of the hats we've already made and look at ways of just reinterpreting, the designs. Because what we didn't want to do is just make, replicas or re-editions, because you never get them right.
Sure.
And it's better to just to sort of almost take the idea for a hat and put a bit of a spin on it, but try and give you the flavour of the original. And which is why we've done what we had. So obviously, going through the range quickly.
Sure.
Obviously, we have the Odd Job, as we know, based on the hat Odd Job wears in Goldfinger, which is a limited edition, only 60 pieces.
No,
That's
they're going to fly.
That will go. And then we've also got the Vincenzo, which is based on the hat that Diana Rigg wears in Her Majesty's Secret Service.
What's this made of?
It's a scorial wool. So scorial wool, very sustainable. The properties of cashmere, but a much easier fibre to work with, because you can't really felt cashmere like this. So that scorial wool is a very important material for us.
And tough as well.
And tough, very, very tough as well. So that's very, very going to be, I think, an exceptionally popular
big
hat.
seller. It's one of
And then the other one that's going to be launched in the first drop is the Auric, which is effectively a homage to the hat that Auric Goldfinger wears whilst he's getting trashed at golf. And again, scorial, beautiful.
It is very.
And all the hats have the special bond lining with the co-branded logo and the little art cards on the tags, which is they're pretty collectible.
It's beautiful because, seeing that inside, because some companies, not mentioning any names all above around, but they have, it's subtle, but they still have the 007 branding on it. And it's a bit naff, because James Bond wouldn't be walking around with 007 splashed all over his hat. Yeah. So having the discreet, the labelling that you can't see when you first look at the hat is, I think, really, really important.
Well, first and foremost, they've got to be great hats.
Yeah, exactly.
They're great hats in the Bond canon, but they've got to be lovely hats anyway, because hopefully people wear them. I'm sure this will be put in somebody's display cabinet at home, but you're going to get the odd person who's going to wear it.
Gabby game for a laugh, yeah.
And so then we've got the Andrea, which is based on the hat that Maud Adams wears in A Man with the Golden Gun, and then the other one in the summer is probably something you'll be wanting to get hold. So that's the Stoke, and this is a new take on the ribbon that was worn in the film, and again with that it's got a beautiful 007 sweatband,
very
which is
nice.
really, really lovely.
And in my size too, 61.
And in your size too. I'd like one, but I can't have one, which is unfair. And then the Hats of the Winter is probably what's going to be the one that I think people are going to want to go for.
Seller, I think.
Is the James, which is the only one which is a recreation of the hat, and this is obviously Sean Connery's hat that he wears in the first 2 or 3 films. Again, beautiful lining with a 007 branded. Again, in scorial wool and in this lovely sort of off green colour almost.
How did you match up the style and did you get access? But the original one wasn't available, I don't think. Was it?
No. This was basically lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of watching different versions of the same film. Because we've spoken already about the different colour gradings between VHS and DVD and Blu-ray digital. So we got to a point where we were happy enough because this is the closest we were going to get in terms of the colour. But again, a lovely hat, even if it was a Bond hat.
And the brim, the width and everything else is as close
exactly
as you can get. It's just absolutely stunning. And what's that's a very, is that the normal width there? Is that like specific?
Yeah, so it's what we call grey ribbon. This ribbon is what we call racing ribbon. So on racing felts, on English racing felts, it's always a very short ribbon. American hats have a much wider ribbon.
Sure.
So if you see a lot of, some 1940s American reporter hats, it's a much squarer crown, a much wider ribbon. English felts, more of a pinch and a narrow ribbon. So that's a very traditional English style.
Do we know how much that's going to retail for? Has that been fixed
this
yet
one,
or not?
$395, I think. So
Sweet. That's got to be the
Cheaper half price.
No, it's gorgeous though. I mean, I think that's going to be the main big seller because that was the original Bond hat.
Yeah.
One, in fact, first worn by Bob Simmonds in the gun barrel,
Yes,
and then by Sean, obviously holding it up against the camera in Jamaica.
And then the last one is this cap, which is called the 60. And this comes out in October, so this is the one which is nothing to do with really the hats from the films, but almost like a little bit of our homage to the 60th anniversary. And this is my favourite because we've got the sort of Dr. No 60th anniversary lining
Beautiful.
with the 60th art card as well.
That is going to fly as well. Now, are there any hats that kind of like you had a short list and you thought, we've got to only pick 7? Are there any ones you'd like to put in?
Yes.
Or extended?
But I can't tell you.
You'd have to kill me.
That's next year.
You are, so there might be another collection, or there will be another collection.
Potentially, yes, yeah. We'll see how this goes. I mean, hopefully it'll be very successsul, but the thing, I mean, unfortunately, with the world as it is at the moment, supply lines for every material are stretched. It's very difficult. So, the team that works on this, as you know, we've got a very small team. We're a family business. It's been a huge amount of work to get to where we are now. So everything we do is going to be very considered, and obviously we'll keep working very closely with EON to make sure they're on board with what we're doing. So yes, I think that hopefully there'll be a second collection next year.
Because there are lots of hats that I was talking to Meg Simmonds earlier on, and obviously the morning hat, the grey top hat that Timothy Dalton wears in License to Kill, the wedding hat, was definitely a Locker hat, so that would be an instant. I mean, I'm not trying to preempt what might be in your potential
I
collection.
can't pay you, Blair. I've got no money. Potentially, yes.
Potentially, yes.
You never know.
Knickknacks, bowler hat, maybe. I mean, it's obviously.
Well, as you know, I'm a big fan of Dalton, so if I could get that in, we'll do that. So.
Seriously, I mean, we were talking to Pete Brooker earlier on about having the bullet hole actually in the hat, a bit of ventilation maybe. It'd be quite a good idea.
We might miss that one out because we get a few come back. They think it's faulty, wouldn't they? So it's very, very exciting. We're super proud of what we've done so far, and we just hope people like that.
Oh, I mean, they're going to fly. They're absolutely gorgeous. One last thing. The beanie hat from Spectre.
Yes.
Now, we talked about this before. Yes. There was some grey area, and then people said no, it was Acne. But then other people said no, it's definitely Lock and Co.
Yeah, and I know why it was because I packed the hats to send off to the studio.
You see. It had a very distinctive little kind of like a little pinch at the top. Is that something that? Because I know you were going to reintroduce the hats, but it wasn't necessarily going to have that little extra.
Well, I think I think at the moment we're very much going to be focusing on the classic films for inspiration, purely because as you move forward in time, hat wear is less prevalent in the films. But hopefully, in future films, we may be able to work from the inside. So that's a different thing.
Well, now you've got this close tie with EON. You'll be in, with Meg Simmonds and the wardrobe department. And so hopefully, I want to get hat wear out there because it's really, really, it's something that, it looks so stylish back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And it's something I think is really lacking for men. They really do, having an extra piece of accoutrement they can whack on. Yeah. It's so stylish. So I'm really rooting for the fact that.
Well, I think for us, we look at it as a hat as a necessity, not an accessory.
Sure, absolutely.
When you become a hat wearer, it's part of who you are and what you do. So if you leave home and you haven't got your hat, you're like, it's like not wearing your.
I feel naked.
Your watch or your wedding ring.
Yeah.
Maybe not that. But,
maybe you wear the hat when you're not wearing a wedding ring. You keep your head down and.
But that's what it's about. It's about just literally giving people a better sense of themselves, a better a nice feel about how they are. And one of the most important things we do at Lock & Co is to make sure that everyone gets the right hat. Because if we hat people with the wrong hat, it's not good. It's not a nice experience. It doesn't look right. It doesn't make you feel good. So that doesn't happen here. So it's all about looking at the person. What would you like, but what's going to work for you as a person.
Very good point.
So that's what we try and do, and have fun doing it.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much. This has been Blair Ballard and Mike Hagon for the Bond, Vivant, bidding you very Bond. Farewell. Stay safe, friends. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do consider smashing those like and subscribe buttons. Do turn on notifications so you know when the next video drops. Also, leave some comments down below as to any videos you'd like to see in the future. But for now, stay safe, friends. We'll see you next time.